you know, time it is hit your bike at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And this evening, we bring you a brief discussion on all things Tottenham. Of course, we know we're in the midst of a manager search right now. Paul Merson made a sort of comment earlier on where he said, who wants to be manager at Tottenham Hotspur if Harry Kane goes? He said he can't see people line up to take over at Tottenham if Harry Kane leaves in the summer. And it got me thinking, should we be considered that when talking about, the next manager coming in here or selling Kane to do the rebuild? Also, Fabrizio Romano said yesterday that Harry Kane, he wants to know about the manager. For him, the manager is absolutely crucial. So again, do we have to take that into consideration, to convince Kane? Is it the style of play the manager brings, or is it the route of a pedigree sort of manager? And then also we'll be talking about, if under the new manager, will any of the 11 players out on loan, will any of them be given a second chance? And also maybe a little discussion on all the injuries we have picked up so far this season. And of course, we are joined by the one and only co-host Jack Kanicki and the two wonderful gentlemen underneath us, Phil and Sean, giving up their times on a Saturday evening. Jack, how are you, my man?
Keeping pretty well, Dave. It's been a big day of footy, hasn't it? With the likes of Brentford, Brighton. You have Chelsea losing today to Unai Emery, which is definitely nice to see. They also lost at home as well. Liverpool getting a nice little humbling as well. Jurgen Klopp's kind of new smile that he paid for from the dentist getting wiped away. It's been a good day, Dave, I think, for us Spurs fans. And the one thing that is a little kind of scary is it feels like every single weekend that we've had maybe the rivals in the European race sort of drop points, we seem to also drop points as well. It's just been kind of a who can kind of suck the least, to end up finishing fourth is really what it seems like this season. So I'm looking forward to it, though, Dave. Back to the misery come Monday. And yet again, we're fixing Tottenham Hotspur today.
Well, look, let's see if it is misery on Monday, Time will tell. And time is ticking to Monday night's game as well. So we'll see how it gets on. A bit like Faz says here, today's results were in our favour. Let's capitalise on it Monday. Big up, Faz. And he also calls us his favourite Spurs channel. What a legend, my man. Also, big up Jacob and Welsh Guy as well. And also Kong 108 as well, and Johnny Stokes and the Bolton Duta and David Hall as well. All of you big yourselves up. We are, of course, joined by Shawnee as well from Spurs Talk Show. Shawnee, how are you keeping, brother?
I'm good, Dave. Good, Jack. Good to see you, Phil. Been a little while, my man. How's everybody doing?
All good, man.
As good as can be, lad. General life, personal life is good. When it comes to Tottenham, I don't know how to feel, my man.
Yeah, Tottenham is... it's a dark corner of the football community at the moment, isn't it? Like a lot of other teams, everyone's got something to fight for, and Tottenham are massively involved in a fight as well. Yet everyone seems to be very much just like downtrodden and angry and it's a sad state of affairs, but. You know what? It's always more cheery when we get together and go through whatever the topics of the day are. So I'm looking forward to. I'm wondering if Jack's about to start scratching his shoulder.
hopefully, Shawnee. Hopefully, the topics are a bit more cheery. But with the state of Tottenham at the minute, I wouldn't envisage you coming off here with much of a smile on your face like usual, anyway, my man. But it's great to have you nonetheless. Thanks, also, let's welcome in King Hoddles. Big yourself up, Derek Hutchinson as well. Who else have we got? We've got Tottenham, the Tottenham one, big yourself up, Green 216 as well, same as Jack Mulcairn as well, big yourself up, buddy. And also Jazzy Fusion in the house, along with Tot 943 and Welsh Gal and Mark as well. Big yourselves up. We are, of course, joined by the one and only Phil. How are you keeping, my man? Hopefully,
all good. All good, apart from Tottenham at the minute, obviously. Everyone feels the same. But yeah, I mean, the results are going our way so far this weekend. With Liverpool losing, Newcastle playing United tomorrow. Hopefully, we get a draw tomorrow. I think that'll be the best result for us. A draw,
draw or a United win, right? Because you fancy Tottenham against Newcastle potentially in a shootout. But you don't really fancy Tottenham against United in a shootout.
I can see United. Going far away from us, to be honest with you, and going on a run. Newcastle, I can see dropping off. I don't think they're as consistent as United are. So I think Newcastle can be caught. So, yeah, a United win or a
Newcastle draw.
draw.
Just before you go any further, guys, I don't know if you guys were watching the 3 o'clock kickoff. Thank goodness that I found someone through Barry Ranjit, Nick Collison, who got me in touch with someone who could give me that access to the 3 o'clock kickoffs. I think I saw today one of the greatest games of football of the season between Brighton and Brentford.
You could have asked me, Sean. I could have helped you out if you needed. But I mean, honestly, like seriously, it was the best game of all time.
Amazing game. Amazing game. 2 teams going for it. 2 great teams, 2 great sides, evenly matched. The ref did a good job, didn't get involved too much where he didn't have to. Just an absolute joy to watch, you know?
The best moment, I think, was Ivan Toney's like 2-1. That was absolutely thrilling. You know, just as
also that result benefited us as well with Brighton drawing. You know, and Brentford, because they ain't too far away from that top 4 or the European places. So more so Brighton, in my opinion.
It was the battle between the 2 clubs that are, you know, maybe every Spurs fans wish we were kind of operating like, right? You know, the symbols of competency, the symbols of, you know, playing within your means, but still, you know, punching above your weight, all those things that we wish we could be doing kind of over here at Spurs. But Phil, just before we move on into the real questions, I mean, it seems, you know, thanks for giving up your time, but I don't see any other Phils in the chat. You're a lone Phil army today.
Yeah, I'm sure Phil Peer been here at some point, throwing in the Phil army, you know. But yeah, I'm taking over today, so yeah, I'm the leader today.
You've been the one sent into the pack of wolves. Absolutely love it. Do you know what, though? I am sick of having these conversations about your results going our way. I just wish we didn't have to depend on them. We took care of ourselves for once. That would be nice. But let's welcome a few more people in. Let's finish off the formalities, then let's get deep down into the shit that is Tottenham Hotspur right now. Big up, Mark. Good to see you, my man. Also, Super Tottenham. Great to see you. We are joined by Jay Greenham as well. Great to see you, brother. We also have Eamon Burns. Good evening. Eamon Burns says, good evening, lads. I want Poch in, but I'm too afraid it won't work out for him. What I would say to you, I mean, just quickly is, my man, I'd say, look, that guy's been sort of jobless for a while. And if he was going to be in, I would have said he would have been in by now, to be honest with you. So I think Tottenham probably have a different plan when it comes to Pochettino. Big up Daniel Sandoval. Big up Ellie. Big up Paul Beatty as well. Says no new embarrassing news today. Hooray. Yeah, for once, my man. We're not on the front line of the papers. Big yourself up. Big up Steve D as well. Big up Davey Hall. Who else are we missing here? I want to make sure we don't miss anybody. Tequila 316. Big yourself up. Big up Mr. Drummond as well. Scotty Hynam, Nicholas Nichols. We're joined by Lisa as well this evening. Great to see you in the building as well. Same as Simon Cohen as well. Big yourself up. I think I've got near enough everybody in there. And Pat Whelan as well. Paddy Harnett, Mr. Harnett. How could I forget you? And Val Taylor as well. Chris S. And also Stacey Arbor as well. Great to see you all. But guys, we and Toxic Headshot in there as well. Great to see you. We are going to crack on and start talking about all things Tottenham. If you do like what we do here, you do like the content that we put out, if you want to support what we do here, feel free to send in a super chat and engage with us through our live shows with your opinions, thoughts, whether you agree or disagree, or feel free to grab them channel memberships, just a small fee every single month that basically just keeps us going. But look, we understand it's very tough times out there. I fully understand it. We are all feeling that credit pinch right now. So just all we ask is that you just engage with us in the comments as we go along, and maybe also like the stream as well. But that's enough of the formalities. Over to you, sir. Over to you, Jacko. Sir, I'm getting the practicing from Monday.
Sir!
Get in the early. He got in the first sir of the weekend. Paul Merson, everybody.
Someone had a bet on me somewhere. Someone's won a $5.
Boondog, there it is. Paul Merson says, can't see people lining up to take over at THFC if Harry Kane leaves, guys. And I know we don't like to really listen to Paul Merson very much, but there is something that we probably do have to consider. And for once in our lives, we might be asking ourselves, is Paul Merson actually right on this sort of scenario? Sean, I'm going to go to you first, and let me know if I need to scratch my shoulder on this question, but we're going to get straight into the weeds right away here. What do you think? Is Paul Merson right to bring this up, that maybe a lot of managers could probably just look away from Spurs if they know that Harry Kane is out the door?
Look, yes and no. I don't think that they'll have any clarity and you haven't got to scratch your shoulder on this one. I think I'll be okay. I think I don't think there'll be any clarity on Harry Kane's position anytime soon. There's a hell of a lot of chickens and a hell of a lot of eggs that need to figure themselves out in the pecking order of priorities right now.
We also have different candidates too, like a variety of different candidates, I think, as well. Sorry, continue though.
Yeah. So I think that there are some managers that will that could be a part of the kind of the negotiations for Harry Kane. If someone like Pochettino was to come in, I think there's a hell of a lot higher chance and a probability that Harry Kane stays than if someone else was to come in. Me personally, like I've said a thousand times, I think that Tottenham have to get on board. Tottenham fans, Tottenham just in general, everybody has to recognize that there is going to be a time in the not too distant future, whether it's 3 months, whether it's the end of next season, or whether it's in 3 or 4 years' time when he's too old. Tottenham have to face a future that doesn't have Harry Kane around it. And for me, I've made the argument on my channel that there's like a Goldilocks zone around what is the sweet spot where Daniel Levy is going to have his mind triggered. If in a world where Harry Kane says, I ain't hanging around for you lot to figure out this debacle that's going on with no director of football, no manager, I'm not going to hang around to see it. So I want out. And in certain press reports today, they were saying that Daniel Levy, and there was no sources to justify it, but they were saying that Daniel Levy is not going to sell to a Manchester club. He's resenting and regretting the sale of Kyle Walker. So Manchester United and Manchester City can forget about it. And if those two were not going to happen, then the only natural exit that would happen this summer might be overseas. And then does Harry Kane want to sacrifice his Premier League title in order to go and get a team trophy? I made my point on a video I made today that I think that the requirement of a team trophy to cement a player's legacy, I think the whole argument is ridiculously illogical. Well, I'm sure that's a different topic, so I won't talk about it now.
I agree with you. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I won't go into it. But for me personally, I don't think we need to necessarily believe that Harry Kane is gone. But I do think that any manager that's going to come in will probably have to come in with the risk that Harry Kane won't be here, because unfortunately, that is the very last of the priorities. Right now, the priorities for Daniel Levy has to be a new director of football after the April 19th verdict on the appeal. And then that guy has to be involved, assuming that the appeal goes the wrong way, that guy has to be involved in the new manager. And the new manager then has to probably take the risk on that Harry Kane will or won't be here. But ultimately, if Harry Kane isn't here and we can get that sweet spot between 75 and 100 million quid, anything less than 60 million quid, and Daniel Levy takes the risk that Harry Kane's going to score enough goals next season to get us into the Champions League, which will generate 60 million quid or more, guaranteed. Anything more than 100 million quid is never going to happen. So for me, the Goldilocks is between 75 and 100. Yeah. If someone comes in with that budget, then I don't necessarily think you have to turn it down. I think it could be good business to cash in. There's so many examples of football clubs that have cashed in on their best assets at peak valuation. I know that Harry Kane's maybe not peak right now, but why is it Tottenham have to always either have their hand forced by players wanting to leave?
Can I jump in there a little bit, Sean?
Yeah, sorry, mate. I'm rambling. Carry on.
Where you say about the, if we do get, 80 million to 100 million, do you trust this club or this recruitment team to spend that money wisely for this football club?
No, I don't. Okay, of course not. We've got a horrible track record. That to me is the biggest problem at the football club. It's not the lack of money, it's the way you spend it. But you'd rather spend the money, you'd rather have the money to spend than not have it at all. And I make that same argument towards Harry Kane as I would about people that wish that Tottenham finish outside Europe this year. There's a lot of Tottenham fans that want Tottenham to collapse and finish 9th for 2 reasons. One is it might support their narrative around the owner, and 2 is because there's 1 game a week and then there's less distractions. But ultimately, if you want Tottenham to rebuild in the summer and buy the 2 centre-backs that we need, a goalkeeper that we need, and a creative midfielder, when hands down that the owner has made it unequivocally clear we have to live within our means. You'd rather have the money that you're probably going to misspend than not have the money to misspend in the
But
first
also,
place.
even if you want Nagelsmann, right, for a rebuild, you can't expect Nagelsmann to be very convinced to come to Spurs if we finish 9th. He'll be more convinced to come to Spurs if we finish 4th, right?
Yeah.
There's that as well.
Anyone, Jack, that is saying
Fonseca is
you'd
more
rather Tottenham you'd rather Tottenham lose the last 10 games than win the last 10 games. For me, I can't get on board it. But
it's more appealing to be in the Champions League. One for top quality players to come into this club that we need in positions, and for a top quality manager and a director of football as well, which is equally important. So,
100%.
Why would a manager too, Phil, though, want to go into a situation where it's just absolutely even more deflated? Like, we're already heavily in the media right now for all this sort of kind of shitstorm that we find ourselves in. Like, imagine if it got even worse, like Sean says, where we lose, let's say, the majority of the games from here on out. Why would any manager want to come in and save that? It's already questionable whether they want to come into the situation right now as it is, even if we do finish 4th or 5th. Imagine finishing outside of Europe and finishing way down on the tables and it gets worse from here. Like, why would somebody come in and be the guardian angel for us? You do have to often put yourself in the shoes of some of these managers where it's like, unless they were maybe, huge Jurgen Klinsmann fans, running around in Mainz, Germany or something, they're not going to come in and sort of save us. I don't think they're going to look at maybe better options, and they're going to also see that it also is a bit of a dumpster, fire to walk into. So why would anybody, want to do that willingly?
I just want to come in there on a number of things, guys. I think when we're talking about selling Kane and using the money for rebuild, we're forgetting we've got a lot of deadwood in the squad that we can free up to get rid of, and some players that have already been here that we haven't been able to sell because of whatever reason, whether it be the economic climate coming out of COVID or whatever. So we've also got them to sell and to be able to create a sort of transfer fund to add on to the funds that would already be allocated this summer. I don't think we should be so quick to get someone like Harry Kane out of the door. Look, I understand that the club is going to survive after him, without him, etc. It survived without when Jimmy Greaves left, the same as when Lineker left, Klinsmann, people like that. But the reality is, the whole the whole left and the void that needs to be filled does take a long time to sort of get back to that level. It does. And you're going to feel the pinch without Harry Kane. If you're a manager now, right, you're looking at it. The hardest thing to do in football is put the ball in the back of the net. You've got a guy that guarantees to do that 20-plus games or 20-plus times every single season. Guaranteed. So that's the biggest headache completely out of the way. Then the manager automatically feels, hang on, if I can just work on that defense, if I can just maybe work on the midfield a little, I'll have half a chance of succeeding. You take Harry Kane out of that, all of a sudden you're looking at a squad where you're like, okay, there's some talent there that can go on and have a real good future in the game. But also, there's a lot of problems, Not only do I have to try and help this team now score goals and create goals, I also have to help this team try and keep goals out. So you're sort of adding to your problems, and it becomes a total different proposition to any manager. And that will ultimately end up lowering sort of the caliber of manager that might want to come to Tottenham or that might fancy the job. And for me, I just think we've got to be cautious when we're so quick to maybe say, yeah, look, we got to go on with Kane, without Kane sometime, this, that, and the other. There's a lot more variables to it that I don't think people consider.
No, I 100% agree with you. My ideal scenario is that he signs a new contract, right? I want him to stay, and I want us to find the money for the rest of the rebuild from Daniel Levy's pockets, from the 50 million that wasn't taken from the 150 million, and from finishing top 4, and from the 250 million that they have in the cash in the bank, right? There's enough money there. There should be enough money there to do it for a new manager, and that has Harry Kane a part of it. The question was, would a manager be put off joining Tottenham if he wasn't there? And I think the prerequisite part of that is that Harry Kane may not want to be here anymore. And I think that, to answer the question directly, I think the manager has to make his mind up if he wants to be here before he knows that answer. Because I think the Harry Kane dilemma is something that is probably the last thing in a long list of chicken and the eggs that have to be figured out. But I want him to be here. And I agree with everything you just said. But in a world where he's not, I'd rather him be sold this summer for 90 million quid than hold on to him for another year and then lose him for free next year. And I'd rather take that 90 million. And I do think you can go and get certain players that could. Ivan Toney today was absolutely spectacular. That guy also bangs in 20 million. And you know what else? He also offers a different element. I know he's nothing like Harry Kane as a player.
I think he's very similar in a lot of ways, actually. I think he has the similar hold-up play to Harry Kane, maybe.
Hold-up play and certainly aerial flick-ons, right? I remember the stat where William Saliba, it was the most embarrassing night for him when Arsenal went to Brentford, and it was like 15 aerial duels. And Saliba has the record now of not winning a single aerial duel against the same player.
He's very, very good at penalties as well. Very good.
Right? Brilliant. And I think that, Tottenham can mold and adapt and have something different. If you were to take 85, pay Brentford 70 or whatever it is, I don't know how long Ivan Toney's ban's going to be. And then there's other players that are emerging. Maybe Rasmus Højlund from Atalanta, fantastic, phenomenal talent. I don't know how much he's going to cost and whether we could even attract him anyway. But there's a difference
between there's a difference between the players you're talking about and the finished article, though. Someone like an Ivan Toney, you do need other players in and around him. Whereas you look at someone like Harry Kane, he can assist goals, he can score goals. Someone like Erasmus, that you're talking about, Erasmus Højlund, I get it, and eventually we are going to have to look. I don't understand why we can't bring someone like that in and get him to work with Kane for a year, even if he does want to go. Learn things off him, help him develop, give him a chance when he comes in here, rather than putting someone like him in there and putting the burden on him to score 20 plus goals a season straight away, because it's not going to happen.
A lot of pressure on a young lad as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but also there's a massive difference, knowing where to be, knowing the little tricks in the trades and how to bump off players, reading the game and all that sort of stuff. The Premier League's a different ball game altogether, and it takes a long time to build up all of that. And I agree with you, Sean, to a certain extent that, look, we do have to start planning for life without Harry Kane, 1,000%. But, it's a different ball game to ask someone like that to come in here and fill that void. You're inevitably going to see a drop-off. And with what's going on at the club right now, I don't think it's right to maybe look to plan without Harry Kane or not bring in a manager that would work with Harry Kane. I think you've got one last roll of the dice to bring in a guy that can maybe help get Harry Kane over the line, but also build that stability and the platform when Kane leaves. I think I would rather.
So you'd rather run Harry Kane's contract down? Would you, Dave? If Harry Kane said, "I want to go to Man United," and Daniel Levy said, "That ain't happening," or "It's only happening for 90 million or above," and Man United came in with cheeky 50, and Levy went, "No," you'd rather run him down, get the last 25 goals out of him, and then hope that Tottenham can find some other option.
I believe Spurs said they're willing to do this almost like a buzzer beater, Sean. Like they're willing to almost do it to the very last minute. Like they're willing to convince Kane, whether it even means waiting until the January window, like of next year as well. Like that's what I think. There was that big report from Ali Gold basically saying that they're not going to sort of, have some sort of time limit on it. Like they are going to basically just keep pushing and pushing and pushing until maybe they can finally get him to be convinced. I guess they think sort of time and maybe things that
time heals all wounds, right?
Yeah, I mean, time is on
it's not the best time to stand for a contract talk, is it? So
they might think time is on their side if they get the right manager in, if Spurs finish in the right spot when it comes to Champions League, etc. They might think that they don't need to make the decision now. What I would say to muddy the waters, though, guys, is that whatever manager is coming in, like he might well and good say, "Hey, I want to know like what Kane's future is." Like Daniel Levy's like, "Yeah, dude, me too. Like I want Kane to know what his future is," like it as well. And it might be just the case that whatever manager comes in just will face facts with, "Hey, you might have Kane this season, might not have him next season. Are you still okay to work with us? And are you okay to rebuild with or without him?" That might be the real question in sort of the interview, right? Is like, are you willing to work with or without Kane? Because we're going to be basically pushing for him to the very, very last minute. So we're going to be pushing for him even if this summer doesn't work out where we get that 100 million or whatever. Yeah. So the manager might not get what he wants on the Kane situation. So Paul Merson, as much as Paul Merson might think that the managers will just reject Spurs, I mean, managers might not get what they want, like in this situation, regardless.
I mean, who's to say that the new manager will want Kane in his plans? I mean, Kane's obviously a world-class player, exceptional player, but If he's more about pressing, can Kane do that press now? It all depends on whether he's in his plans or not, in my opinion. But for me, I would love him to stay. I'd prefer him in a 10 role and then get another striker in so he can learn off Kane at the same time. That would be my way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look. We just posed the question just to see where people's general thoughts are. Very good discussion. Really enjoyed that. So I think we'll take the super chat here from Drew Zilla. We're also going to delete that fake Spurs talk show in the comments as well. Imposter Sean, it's a sign of you making it when you have people trying to fake it.
It's dangerous, mate. It's dangerous, bro. Like I don't watch. There's a lot of channels that I don't watch that now. This guy, he can go in there and say things that I don't represent, and it's funny. It's good banter, but stop it, man. It's dangerous.
It's a sign. It's a sign that you made it, my man. It's a sign that you made it. And Drew Zilla says here, I'd vote for Sean if he was for PM. He's the logical voice of THFC. Dude is so underrated. Also, big up to Dave Jack, Irish Hotspur, and the Flat Cap Army. Big up, Drew Zilla. Good to see
Drew.
you. Sean, what do you want to say to Drew Zilla? He seems like your number one fan. Was it him with the Spurs talk show? He loves you that much, baby.
No, listen, mate. I appreciate you, Drew. Very, very nice, mate. Listen, I get a lot of hate at the moment for playing the devil's advocate, for putting out the balanced arguments that people don't necessarily want to hear. But I very much appreciate you, Drew. Top man, mate. Top man. Thank you.
Well, Al Jazeera, we're trying to keep him here, Drew, but Al Jazeera is trying to poach him away, and people are trying to say unsubscribe from Al Jazeera and everything. It's complicated. Pick yourself up, Drew. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Thanks for watching as well, Drew. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, big up. Over to you, Jack. Our next question.
This one is slightly related, but it also is more just kind of in line with the confirmation of kind of what situation we do find ourselves in. Fabrizio Romano did say here, lads, as well, that I believe here he said that Harry Kane, on the Harry Kane situation, he wants to know about the manager. For him, the manager is absolutely crucial. And so for Harry Kane, Tottenham are insisting on a new deal. What sort of manager do you guys think will sort of tackle this problem that we have here, and what sort of manager do you think can convince Harry Kane? Is it going to be style of play, or is it going to be pedigree, kind of like Jose and Conte? I think it was more the pedigree. Or could it be someone like an Amorim, a Nagelsmann, maybe more of a style of play situation? I think I'll start with Phil. Phil, what do you think?
For me, it's very, very difficult to predict. I mean, with Nagelsmann, he's a good tactician. He plays an attacking style. Is he enough to keep Kane staying at the club? I'm not so sure about that. I think Poch is more of a pull than Nagelsmann, in my opinion, simply because he's worked with Kane for a good number of years. So yeah, I think Poch would be the man, in my opinion.
Interesting. I feel like it could be maybe style of play this time, because the last two managers that have come in, Sean, have been sort of the pedigree type guys. What do you think? Like, is it going to be style of play? Is Harry Kane going to think differently about it? Or is he yet again going to be maybe more impressed by the charisma, as well as, let's be honest, the trophy cabinets of some managers?
I would imagine that this time it takes a blend of both. I think he down tools, or not down tools. I'm not going to criticize his professionalism. I think he wasn't interested in Nuno because Nuno offered neither pedigree nor football,
nor style of
right,
play.
Nor style of football. And I think with Conte, he offered pedigree. But listen, it also depends on what sort of character Harry Kane is in and around the dressing room. I don't know if anyone really knows whether he's the funny guy, whether he's the leader, whether he's influenced by people. I know that a lot of people were telling us that people like Matt Doherty were very influential. People like Serge Aurier were even influential in certain but you never really hear how influential Harry Kane is within the kind of ranks? Does he listen to people? Is he shaped by other people's that have got bigger personalities? He's obviously the biggest player in the team, but does he have the biggest personality?
He's like boringly professional. If anything, I think in the dressing room. What does that mean then in the dressing room? If you're the boring professional guy, what does that mean?
It might mean that he's someone that just distances himself and just gets on with it and just like I'm just going to focus and do my gym, do my stretching, do my practices. Or it might be someone who's influenced by the funny guy or the kind of the groundhog, whatever, right? So I don't know what the answer is there, but what I would say is, look, the born leader with pedigree in the manager hasn't worked. Jose ran out of steam with the ownership. I think Conte ran out of steam with the players. Maybe the training was too hard, and there was that guy, the Dutch guy, I forget his name, Ard de God or
Arne
something.
Slot,
who talked about Arne Slot and said, don't go off, like, don't take the job there. And he made this point about how Tottenham, the club, protect the dressing room, and the dressing room have a lot of player power. And I thought it was a really insightful commentary from that guy. And to me, I think that perhaps if you want to convince Harry Kane to stay, I would imagine that you would need to have a combination of someone that he's going to get on with and respect as a pedigree, but also someone who's going to play good football. And on that basis, it would probably be a positive outcome if it was Nagelsmann, because he has the pedigree and the football, Poch, because he has the historical relationship and the football, or Luis Enrique, because he has the pedigree and the football. I think people like Amorim, people like Thomas Frank, people like De Zerbi, they might offer the football but not the pedigree. And someone like Postecoglou, I don't think necessarily offers enough either. So for me, if you want to keep Harry Kane, and I think we all do, at least for the next couple of years, then the pedigree alone is not enough if the football is boring. You need to find someone that can play good football and also have a bit of a reputation, and that would probably be one of the three names that I mentioned at the start.
I think the style of play outweighs everything for me. I think Kane, in my opinion, I think he wants us to play attacking football. I think, back to the.
I mean, he's changed his mind then on Conte and Jose. Perhaps this time around he's changed it. He's changed his mind on it because he liked Jose and Conte, Phil.
Yeah, he liked Conte. Who knows whether he liked his style?
He didn't say. We still haven't heard a word about Kane about Conte, though, have we?
Yeah, I mean, who knows whether he liked the style of football? I think they had a good relationship between manager and player. I think they did have a good relationship, but I think Kane prefers an attacking style of play instead of a very rigid, very style of play, to be honest.
Goal stuff, yeah,
Yeah, I think I'd like to see him in the box more, in my opinion, instead of coming back and linking up play. I'd rather see him in the box, going for headers, and having like attacking wingers as well, like we used to have.
To what Sean was saying earlier, though, guys, and maybe I'll ask you.
Creative midfielder.
Yeah, he needs a lot of those. Dave, do you feel like Harry Kane has the personality in the dressing room as well as the personality to demand maybe the right, demand I want a manager that is more style of play, that does sort of get us on the front foot? Or is he willing to say to Levy, I want another guy that has a proven record, a proven sort of trophy cabinet? What do you make of it, Dave? Like, does he have the personality to do it? Does he have sort of does he have kind of the balls to do it, really?
Look, down to the personality of Harry Kane. Down to the personality of Harry Kane. I think, no manager's ever come out and criticized the guy. No one's ever has a bad word to say about the guy. And that would ultimately show me, along with him scoring 20-plus goals every single season and his longevity with Tottenham, and constantly putting in good seasons, season after season, season in, season out, shows to me that he's the ultimate professional in terms of he may not be the most vocal, but he definitely leads by example in terms of doing the right things. I basically think he does all the right things, and it's up to people whether they want to follow him. I think when you look at maybe his captaincy, things haven't really changed or picked up. Attitudes haven't really. That would also suggest to me that maybe he is not the most vocal or doesn't have maybe a big voice in that dressing room. And that again alludes to maybe him leading by example. Now, I think the boys make some decent points when it comes to, Harry Kane and the next manager. But the reality is, I don't think he cares about the style of football. For me, I think it's all about the pedigree of manager. The only manager where it didn't work for him was Nuno altogether. When we had Poch in charge, it was a bit different because Kane was making his way into the game. But since then, Jose Mourinho, pragmatic, Conte, pragmatic, didn't have a problem. Still scored goals, still delivering 20-plus goals a season. You never really hear anything of him coming out complaining this, that, and the other. So for me, I think it's all about having a manager that Harry Kane feels like he has a chance of winning silverware. And I think it's more important now to have a manager that has a proven track record with CVs on his with trophies on his CVs, because before he had Jimmy Greaves record, so close to it, you kind of thinking, look, I'll break the record. But now that that's broken, it becomes a different sort of thing altogether in Kane's mind. And in my mind, when I look at it, the only manager that it didn't work out under, and that's because he gave him the cold shoulder. He didn't speak to him whatsoever. And I know this because, what was his name? Jack said it to us. The Irish guy, Tony Galvin. Tony Galvin told us that. He said it to us. And it's like, and why would Kane respect someone like Nuno? He's sort of only managed Wolves, stuff like that. But, he didn't really, you didn't see that.
Or no style of play, no pedigree, like Sean said.
The worst of both worlds, right?
You didn't see him pushing for an exit under a Conte, under a Jose Mourinho, but you did under a Nuno, and all of that sort of tells me that it's more.
That was before Nuno, though. That was before Nuno, right? He pushed for the exit in the summer. He pushed for the exit after Jose left, before Nuno signed. It wasn't like I think he pushed for the exit after Jose left. I don't think he pushed for the exit because of Nuno. Nuno came in after
before the appointment, wasn't it?
The thing is, Jose was sacked months before that.
Yeah, in March or April or whatever.
Kane only started pushing for a move when the sort of names of Nuno, Fonseca, and all of that was started to be linked with the job. And then when we ended up hiring Nuno, it was then evident and became clear that Kane was.
But that conversation probably started. You don't think that conversation probably started with his brother and the agent a long time before Jose even? I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying.
Because he didn't push for an exit when Conte was announced. You know what I mean? And there was clubs interested in him then. Bayern Munich, United. There's other big clubs interested in him.
I accept that. But what I would say is there's a difference between him getting on with the job and being professional. He will score 20 goals a game if I'm managing Tottenham, because he's that sort of player.
But you even have to look at Kane's form, though, Sean. Under Nuno, barely scored. When Conte came in, that back end of that season, it picked up dramatically.
Yeah, but in the first half of the season with Jose, he barely scored, right? So there was
period with Son, the most goals as a duo.
That was under Conte's reign, but I'm saying in the season
that was under Jose's reign.
No, it was under Conte when he broke the record.
Yeah, I think it was under
Conte.
They break the
for
duo
season.
in a season.
That was last season. That was under Conte.
That was the season where he had the most goals and assists, wasn't it?
So that was
Jose's. About Kane and Son as the most prolific.
Yeah, that was last.
The season where Kane had most goals and assists was Jose's season. The season where Kane had most goals and assists in the league was
right. But the season where he broke the record with Son was last season under Conte. Correct.
Okay. Might be. I think
it was under. Yeah, it definitely was. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. Against Leeds, 24Z saying it against Leeds, exactly. So my point is, forget all that stuff. My point is that I'm not sure that the style of football. I'm not sure that when Kane is such a consummate professional, I would say that he gets on with it regardless. But that doesn't mean, because he's scored 20 goals a season, give or take, every season all the way back, even before Poch, right? So you can make the argument that he gets on with it regardless of the scenario. And I don't think we can necessarily take too much from his goal scoring record to make an assumption of whether or not he's okay with the football that's on display. And I actually tend to agree with Phil that, and I stand by it. I don't think that style of football is enough. Like if there was a player that was good, if there was a manager that was going to come in that didn't have any gravitas, didn't have a brand, and said we're going to play, brilliant football, I think he wouldn't get on board it. But if it had a blend of both, I think he would be happier to stay than if the next managerial cab off the rank came in that was playing pragmatic football, the same version of Jose, the same Poch, the same Conte. The next guy comes in, and it's the same thing. I think Harry Kane would get very bored. I think he'd rather play good football, personally.
I feel like Harry Kane is just, I agree, he's a professional no matter what, but it feels like he is going to probably do what was originally said. And I think what we can all agree with is maybe some sort of mix of both, where perhaps the pedigree isn't going to be everything for him now this time, knowing that how it went sort of before with maybe the style of play, but also just he knows that his teammates really just couldn't be able to perform in the same levels that he could in that sort of system or in that sort of environment also as well, because not all of it was really style of play. A lot of it was also the mentality that sort of Conte as well as Jose Mourinho brought into the team, more of kind of a less of a buddy kind of, friendly attitude. It was more of a kind of win now, and also let's be a bit of a kind of the a-holes of the Premier League kind of attitude. And it seems like some were behind that, some aren't behind that, but if you don't have everybody behind it, it doesn't really work out. And maybe it's the case that he is going to look for some sort of mix of, yes, I need maybe some nice on the front foot football, but I can't just be for anybody. Like, it can't just be, like you said, Sean, it can't just be Postecoglou's front foot football. It can't just be maybe Company's. It has to maybe be somebody that also has some sort of proven track record that that front foot football has actually worked before, actually, and it's actually won a trophy. It's not just that it looks nice on TV.
Do you think age is an issue, guys? Sorry, Phil, I'll ask you. Mate. Sorry, bro. I'm gonna put this out there. I'm sorry, mate. I don't want to overtalk.
No,
people like Postecoglou, maybe like great football, right? But untested. We've seen like Steven Gerrard do really well at Celtic and then fail at Villa. So I don't necessarily think that there's. Oh, sorry, was it Rangers? I'm not sure who played Rangers. Not entirely sure that there's it's a bit of a risk for me. Vincent Kompany, legend of a player, winning personality, doing so well at Burnley, amazing when he was at Anderlecht. Great football, changes it up, flips it with the 4-4-2, brings back the 4-4-2 like flares, amazing stuff. However, when you look at people like the feedback that I've read after I put out that comment or that video that I did about saying that Nagelsmann's my favorite, loads of people have come back saying he's clashed with a load of players. And then I think, Jack, you all said the same. You said the same thing in a WhatsApp group. I looked into it. A lot of the players that he clashed with were people that were very senior of age. And I wonder, because he's 35, right? And he's clashing with Oliver Kahn or whatever.
The Mullers.
Neuer, people his own age. Yeah.
Sorry, Oliver Kahn, Oliver Neuer. Sorry, Neuer. People his own age. Do you think that maybe there's an element there that it shouldn't be the case, but I wouldn't want to be shouted at and screamed at in a dressing room by somebody who's my own age telling me how it is, and I can understand that a little bit. If there's egos, and footballers definitely have egos, but they don't want to necessarily be talked to. And if you were to bring somebody in like an Amorim, like a Nagelsmann, that you're better off also cleaning house of the players that are 30 over. Like, get rid of Dyer, get rid of Sonny, get rid of Harry Kane, get rid of Hugo Lloris, and then drop the average age of the team to like 23. And then maybe they'll have a higher respect for a boss who is 8 years older than them, but is still essentially very young in their own tenure. Would Harry Kane, would Hugo Lloris, would any of those kind of 30 plus players tolerate the screaming and shouting from an egomaniac of somebody who isn't that much older than them?
I can't see Kane being that way inclined with, if Nagelsmann come in and he is the same similar age, I can't see him being, I don't know. I can't see him being, trying to disrupt the group by, having arguments with manager. I can't see him being that way. He's not. I don't think he's that type of player, that kind of personality. I don't think he disrupts the group in that sort of way.
I think young managers, guys like Nagelsmann, just quickly, I think guys like Nagelsmann, and we've seen it just now with Graham Potter, what Sean is alluding to, is that the older players, if they are told to maybe do something as well that they don't really feel comfortable doing or don't really want to do anymore, given whatever they've done in the game or also whatever physical state they might be in. A good example, right, was Graham Potter telling like Raheem Sterling to be like a left wing back, right, for like the first few weeks. Like Raheem Sterling just looked at him like, what the hell are you asking me?
Perfect example.
And I think Nagelsmann might fall to do the same thing. thing. That could be a mistake for him. And do we want to go through that sort of toxic nightmare where it ends up just being a mistake on both parties, where it's like Nagelsmann should be allowed to do what he wants to do, but also like you have these senior players that rightfully so are kind of like, why are you asking me to do this? This is ridiculous. Also, younger players are the only reason why they accept it is because younger players have something to prove. So younger players are kind of more willing to accept maybe the instructions as long as it allows them to be able to be successful and,
That's
go on.
my worry. I agree.
The thing is, though, if you're a manager and you walk into Tottenham Hotspur and you know you've got two dedicated individuals like a Son and a Kane, who, ultimately, help this team more than they hinder this team. I'm sorry, but you are an effing idiot if you come in to isolate them and start arguments with them, this, that, and the other. There's a difference between something like what Arteta did going into Arsenal, where you have a Aubameyang, senior pro turning up late for meetings, this, that, and the other, setting bad examples and having a pop at them and getting them out. Then there is coming in and isolating senior pros who are dedicated to their craft. Nagelsmann walking into Bayern Munich, arguing with the players he did. He's got no right to. There's been a winning culture there. The reason why they have the longevity there is because they win every single season. So I think it's just foolish and stupid to go in and act that way. And
well, Arteta was at Arsenal. He was already at Arsenal, wasn't he, Arteta? So he was there as a player. So it was easier for him to come into that group of players where he was known anyway. It'll be a little bit different with Nagelsmann because he doesn't know the club and he's not affiliated with the club, is he? It was a lot easier for Arteta in that way.
Nagelsmann, Debata Duda here. Big yourself up, my friend. Hopefully you're keeping well. He says Nagelsmann played 3 at the back, high press pre-Bayern, and then at 4 at the back, high press at Bayern. I think he also did a version of the 3 at the back, 2 at Bayern. It was
more of a 3-1-5-1 at Bayern, wasn't it? When they their left back was more of a left wing forward, and their right back was sort of
Pavard or Stanisic, I think it was. Would be DMs and strikers press very, very high. Can we do that? Klopp played a counterattack today. Managers do play to their team's strengths, or they should play to their team's strengths, I think, as well, is what he's trying to say. Is Nagelsmann going to kind of go into this a bit stubborn? Is he going to be a bit ignorant himself and kind of walk into things and just sort of play very, very gung-ho type of attacking football and maybe not realize some of the risks that we may have? Is he going to go into it with a bit of a more of a cautious kind of approach where he doesn't exactly do all of his sort of maybe gung-ho type tactics? Maybe he goes into it a bit more pragmatic, then slowly kind of, freeze things up a little bit. How do you see it going for Nagelsmann, Dave? Because like you just said, he'd be silly to isolate Son and Kane. That isn't a good way to go about it. And then also as well, right? Maybe he'd be a bit silly to sort of go about things like as if it were the Bundesliga, where he's just going to dominate the ball and be able to just kind of bully teams.
Yeah, look, for me, I think, Sean was ultimately right when he said, Nagels and the bottom do is here, right, where, he switched from a 3 to a 4 at the back. But when he played the 4 at the back, the two fullbacks were allowed to get extremely high, which is saying sort of left him with the 2 centre backs and the CDM sort of helping to cover. But the reason why he done that and went even more, on the front foot than what he did at Leipzig is the simple answer is he's got better defenders.
Of course.
That's what frees him up and allows him to do that. He ain't got them defenders at Tottenham, so you won't see that version that everyone is calling for that he bought to Bayern or even Leipzig, in my opinion, because any manager that walks in here will spot we don't have that backline, and they will have to alter their tactics.
But we are going to have a new window. We're having a new transfer window that opens in 3 months' time, not even 2.5 months' time. But there's going to be money to spend.
Well,
listen,
Sean.
1 second. Daniel Levy, Dave, hates bad PR. The one outcome that you can guarantee from this is that if he does find a new manager and it's a good one, he's going to give him a lot of money to spend this summer. He's going to, especially if we finish 4th.
I hear you.
And that is going to go directly into the back line.
Look, the thing is, we can sit here and say it's going to go to the back line. Many of us would have said it last summer. People would have said it the summer before that. But the reality is it didn't. And I know you're looking at it now and you say, look, it's obvious it's the last sort of holes that really need to be plugged. And I would hope that funds go there. And I would hope that the next manager that comes in here, and I've constantly stated this and been consistent on this, you bring in defenders, because if you keep clean sheets, it always gives you a chance of winning games. It's that simple. But the reality is, I don't. If people call for someone like Conte to be sacked to play to our strengths, then we shouldn't be sitting here talking about bringing in the next guy and potentially moving or selling Kane on for that rebuild. If we're talking about sacking managers to play to our strengths, which is AKA Harry Kane, because of the amount of goals he scores.
I agree. I agree with you. I think everyone in the comments, everybody on the panel, and everybody on any panel, on any channel, wherever the narrative is, would agree that the next manager will fail if the defense remains the same. And if the rumors are true that Tottenham are close to agreeing a £12 million bid, whatever agreement for Longley, then it's a massive issue. First and foremost, because for me, it cements the narrative in some people's minds that it doesn't matter who the director of football is and doesn't matter who the manager is, that the chairman is buying the players. And if that's the case, and then there's no escape. You have to go, what the hell's going on? Because Longley, first and foremost, isn't good enough. I was somebody who was backing him, and I did all the research, and I was like, I can't wait for this guy. I think if you just give him a hug, he's gonna find out that'll be the best version of you ever seen. Turns out he's just not fast enough. He's terribly slow, and he's like an oil tanker turning at sea. Takes a long bloody time, and everybody on the right, every single team in the Premier League has got a very fast, nippy, like right wing forward who can. Jack, I think you're on mute, mate. Sorry,
I said, Sean. It feels like every team has had a good day on our left-hand side. Yeah. I agree. Against Longley.
And so Longley or Ben Davies. Ben Davies is probably better defending than Longley. When you've got Perisic outside of him, it's an absolute disaster. If we go and spend 12 million quid to cement that and to permanent to make that transfer permanent, then that's a massive problem for me. It's a massive problem. And it also pokes holes in the whole argument that Longley was only ever a stopgap because we couldn't get Bastoni last summer and that we might be able to this summer. If that's the way it figures out, then I'm in the mud. Because I spent most of the year saying that Longley was only ever a short-term thing anyway.
Lazy, like
it feels really lazy, right? But look, 11 million quid. He's not that bad a defender. You're not going to get much better for him for 11 million quid. But I really hope that Daniel Levy sees the wood for the trees on this one and recognizes that, mate, there's never been a higher volume of Tottenham fans that are fed up with you. And if you ain't prepared to go anywhere, and we know that you don't like bad publicity, then for the love of God, you need to. If you want to go, that's fine. But if you don't want to go, then you can't make a decision like that. You cannot make a decision like making Longley permanent, because if you do, then nothing's going to change with the next manager either. You need someone that for the very fundamental, the first asset. Get onto Football Manager and search for central defenders that have a left foot and that have a pace of 18 points out of 20 or higher, right? That should be your filtering process. Start with pace, because if you want the next manager to come in and you want Tottenham to play with a high line and be able to press, you know what? The fundamental bedrock of that is to have fast defenders. Like
you just have to hope. It's not all about pace. Sanchez is quick, and that guy can't stay on his feet.
It's not all about pace, but pace is important. Pace is important, right?
Well, you have to break it down nice and simple for Levy if he's going to be buying the players. I think.
To be fair, I think we need a defender that has got leadership skills as well in that back line. That's the most important for me. You can have pace and defensive capability. That's all well and good, but I think we need a leader in that back line. We are missing that big time.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Look, I'm glad it's so obvious now. Last summer, people were calling me deluded, this, that, and the other. Now everyone's singing off my hymn sheet. It's the way I like it. It's the way I like it. I love to see it. But no, honestly, I'm only messing though. I did wish that, Dyer and Davies and Sanchez could continue on their form from last season into this season. Sadly, it just hasn't been the case. And, we really do need to sort that issue out. But big up the bottom. Do a great talking point, brother, and really appreciate the support, my man. We've got Drew Zilla here, says, Sean did more AL Jazz than Al Jazz did for Sean. Spurs Talk Show and Irish Hotspur are the top two, in my opinion. Level-headed and passionate debate. We want what's best for all of us, even if some of us don't realise it. best THFC content. Look, I'll just go quickly and then we'll let Shawnee in. Look, for me, I've always said, you know, whether you agree with my opinion or not, it's in my opinion always comes from what I believe is best for Tottenham, and always wanting the best for Tottenham. Nothing else, my man. Really appreciate that. And look, one thing you'll always get, whether it's happy or whether it's angry, is passion. You know, I love this club that much. It brings that passion out in me, my man. Big yourself up. Shawnee, anything you want to say to Drew?
Drew, I really appreciate you, mate. Look, the Al Jazeera thing came out of nowhere. It's a random thing. I very much was very grateful for the experience. But mate, thank you so much for your kind words and support, mate. It's you're a legend, buddy. Really appreciate you.
You see Sean, co-host at Al Jazeera next week. Drew said, if you tune in, my man, big yourself up, brother. Really appreciate support and the kind words, my man. We've got John Foley, new YouTube member. Jack, what one has he gone for?
It's gone for the Flat Cap membership. Thank you very much, John, supporting the channel very much. And John, hopefully you're enjoying your weekend. Hopefully you're enjoying your weekend without Spurs. Spurs don't have to ruin it for you this weekend. They can ruin your Monday instead. But maybe this time around we'll get a big performance against the mighty Sean Dyche and his Everton. Big yourself up, John. Appreciate your support.
Big up, John. Really appreciate the support, brother. And do you know what? Hopefully, you know, we will be able to communicate and get in contact and have a conversation about our great club, my man. Big yourself up, John. We have Andrew Dean says, I think Kane will do the power move and run down the contract. Next year, he can literally walk to Man U or Man City for free, demand the wage of his life. Do you know what? I would say, you know, not that I think he's that guy, but I think if you're any person in general, I think that definitely probably comes across your consideration, right? You're reaching 30 plus. You don't really know what your future looks like. I don't know whether Kane's invested in stuff to help, you know, beyond his career and stuff like that. I'm not 100% sure into that. But, you know, you've got to realize, you know, after that, you know, you've got another 30 plus years up until retirement. You've got kids that you've got to put through school. You know, you've got a wife to protect, you know, that you have to, a family you have to fend for and be able to provide for and stuff like that. So I think it crosses every sort of professional footballer's mind. It's not like you're talking about 100 grand. You know, you're talking about half of what the potential transfer fee could be for someone like Harry Kane. You're talking at least 20 to 30 million. And that's a lot of money to pass up. If you get that money and you do the right things with it, you've also set your kids up for a good future. So it's a decision that, you know, I think that we'll have to take some serious consideration if you're any Premier League footballer or any footballer in general, you know, reaching that sort of age of your career, because it is sort of the last big payday you're going to get. You know, you're in your prime, you're scoring 20 plus goals a season, you sign that contract. Chances are the next contract you get, you're sort of going to end up being a bit part player because your legs might not be able to keep up and your money, bonuses and everything else start dwindling. So I think, you know, it'd be stupid of any player nowadays not to sort of think like that in terms of, you know, running down, coming up to the end of the contract and having that decision to make. Because at the end of the day, you know, outside of football, a lot of them just get washed up. Not like, you know, there's not enough jobs or not enough for them to do in football. So it's kind of like, I don't blame them to try and take the most out of the game.
It's a short career, isn't it, Dave? You know, football, you know, being a footballer, it's a short career. I'd like to think that he is settled in London, to be honest with you. I think it'll be an ideal club, Manchester United. I think they do need a striker. They're crying out for one, in my opinion. But I like to think he is settled in London. I'd love him to see out his career at Tottenham Hotspur, and we can get the right manager and go forward with this club.
Would he have this on his mind, though, guys? Maybe quickly, Dave and Phil and Sean, that he might consider the fact that if he did want to go, maybe just do Spurs a favor as well as him a favor and just sort of set Spurs up as best he can with giving them a little bit of money from his transfer fee and just saying, listen, instead of running this down to a free and kind of giving you guys nothing out of it, even though it's not like we deserve, or like it's not like Daniel Levy, let's say, deserves maybe the money from it. But you know what I think I'm trying to say? Like, he might see Spurs in a sympathetic situation and think, well, if I am thinking about leaving and if I am just going to go this, you know, maybe sometime soon, might as well just go this summer, give Spurs that 75 to 80 million Sean and Phil have been talking about, and set Spurs up as best they can, even if it's not perfect and it's not ideal and it's not, you know, it's kind of ugly. might just be, he might have some sort of sympathetic kind of, bone in his body, Dave, instead of maybe thinking about the finances, for.
No, look, I think if the opportunity came around, I think you'd rather accelerate. Sort of, if trophies is the be all and end all to Harry Kane, which I think it's probably the last thing he sort of, needs for not for himself, because I think he'll be very happy and proud of what he's done and his family and all, but for the people outside that say you need to have a trophy, to be known as one of the best, even though you can't deny, the record that the guy's got in terms of goals and output. And I think, if the next step for him is all about trophies, I think he'll want to accelerate that and maybe leave this year without sort of wasting another year in obscurity, because the moves that might be around this summer might not be around next summer. We've seen that when Man City came calling for Harry Kane. That didn't happen. They brought in Haaland. That's now off the table. So I think I wouldn't see any reason why you wouldn't want to accelerate and, help Spurs out with the cash if that's what his next move was. But big up, Andrew. Great talking point again, my man. Really appreciate that. We've got two more, and then we'll probably do one more talking point, and then we'll probably call it an evening and let these gentlemen get off and have a beer or some pasta or whatever it is. Actually, no, you're all done with Italian. What are we thinking next week?
Get the ketchup, boys. Now the ketchup is back. Let's have some fries, some chips.
True Zilla says, I do heart Sean. He reminds me of my BF back in the day. There's also no reason not to like him, and I also realize I've become a Spurs talk show fanboy.
True, mate. I'm starting to wonder whether or not you're my brother or my dad or someone that's just throwing out the love. He knows that I'm getting some hate. Or so. I don't know, dude. I love you too, man. I'd love to meet you someday. I think you must be American with the currency that is on display, mate. I'd love to meet you. You sound like an absolute legend, and I very much appreciate your support, buddy. Thank you very much, mate. Top man.
Big up, Drew. Do you know what? I wish I had someone that fangirl over me like that. My missus doesn't fangirl over me that much. Big up,
fanboy. He's not a fangirl. He's a fanboy. He's
fanboy. All the same.
It's got the bug.
Everyone, it's all the same. But Drew, if you ever get fed up with Sean, and fanboying him, feel free. I'm always open. I feel left out. Big up, my man. Boy. And then we've got Ellie in the building, and she says Levy's record: 1 trophy, countless transfer, bodge ups, built the stadium, but not a great team. Hires managers, sacks them without proper backing, pays himself 500,000 bonus for what? And highest ticket prices. Shame on him. Well, look, Ellie, I know there's probably many out there that would agree with you. But look, for the sake of difference of opinion, I think we'll let Sean rebuttal and we'll let Phil in on this one.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, okay. So financially, okay, something's going crazy in my house. Oh, it's my printer cleaning itself. Sorry about that. Look, Ellie, I know you hate Daniel Levy, and I understand a lot of people hate him, right? And listen, me personally, I don't have any love for him. I'm happy for him to go. I've always got to remind people. I've got to caveat all my comments about him to remind people I don't care about Daniel Levy. I'm happy for him to sell as long as the next guy off the rank as an owner is going to take us in the right direction. But when it comes to things like his pay, right, he gets paid £3 million a year to meet certain objectives. He hasn't taken a pay rise, and he put it on hold because of COVID. Everybody wants a pay rise. Everybody wants an inflation-beating pay rise. Everybody's doing it in the UK. Everybody's like on protest. Everybody's on, out there on looking for more right now. It doesn't. At the end of the day, mate, the guy gets paid a lot of money to do what he's supposed to do, which is to deliver Tottenham. Like, I don't know why that sort of thing affects us. If it does, you shouldn't. Why does that bother anybody? He's just taking what he was owed over the last 2 years when everything was put on freeze because of COVID. Over 2-3 years, he hasn't taken a pay rise, but he's an owner of the football club. That doesn't the 500 grand difference that he's getting paid this year. If that was 150 grand a year extra over the last 3 years, like it might have been another world. It's just natural, mate. He could go and be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or a FTSE 350 company or a FTSE 250 company or a FTSE 100 company. And most of those clubs would love to have a mind as intelligent as his when it comes to the commercialization of a business. And if he did go there to any of those different areas, he would get paid 2 or 3 times more than he gets paid by Tottenham. I know it's sickening to the average person to see what they get paid, but it's the reality of business that when you're the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar business or a multi-billion-pound business, you're going to earn a lot of money. I don't understand why that is a problem. The 500 grand difference is nothing. Ndombele gets paid that every 2.5 weeks. Like, hate him, throw every stick you want at him for the reasons that you want to throw it at him. But when it comes to the money thing, he could walk away from Tottenham, and I know that's what you want, but he could walk away from Tottenham and get paid 4 times more somewhere else. Like, it's just, it's a bad stick to throw at him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll jump in. And with the Levy record, obviously, it's there to see. You know, with the trophy drive, you know, 1 trophy. You can't knock Levy for what he's done from a business point of view. You know, he's brought this great stadium. You know, the business side is great. With him paying himself 500 grand, I don't give a shit what he's getting paid. I just want him to concentrate. Well, not concentrate on the football side. Actually, I want him to go away from that. I want someone to come in and take over that. I'd rather.
I'm happy for that as well. By the way, I'm happy for that as well.
Just concentrate on the business side. Bring someone in who knows about football, who knows, you know, to get us onto the right track, because he can't do it himself. So,
but you know what though, Phil, right? A lot of people, and a lot of people that are saying these things, I actually have a lot of love for them. They're people from the community. They're asking for like a consortium of ex-Tottenham players. They look at people like Oliver Kahn that have made their way to the top of Bayern Munich. Or they look in America and they see ex-players that have become the highest representatives of various basketball, NFL teams, whatever. And they say, let's get a consortium of people like Gary Mabbutt and Ledley King together at the highest echelons of the club. Those people are already employed by the club, right? But they're employed to do tours to fans.
Ambassador roles.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason why they are not deciding what the commercial or the footballing activities are. They've already been employed by the club. The club have analyzed. If they were that clued up and like so insightful on the ability to lead on an administrative or a commercial level, they would have had the promotions. There's a reason why they're employed at the level that they are. Like, the cream rises. You have to like distance yourself a little bit from the emotion and factor in the reality. It's not like Tottenham has said, don't want anything to do with them. They brought them in, spoken to them, introduced them, listened to them, heard their opinions, and they figured out that the right level for them is to take tours. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying that it's a reality, right? It's a reality. Business people think in a certain way. Gary Mabbutt and Ledley King, brilliant advocates of the club. They're already employed by the club.
Just to muddy the waters a little bit, just to muddy it, if he were to give himself a bigger bonus than he previously has, let's say he gives himself a different bonus, gives himself an even bigger bonus than he previously has, and he raises the ticket prices for next season, maybe then it's, you know,
well, listen,
at least.
I mean, the ticket prices, with the inflation and stuff like that, you know, they're obviously. Well,
that means if the inflation, then he couldn't raise his own bonus.
I expected that rise, but you know, it's a difficult one, man. It's
not a difficult one, Phil. It's not a difficult one if you distance yourself from the emotion, mate. Okay, so like you just hear me out here on just the facts of like when people say inflation is 10%, CPI is 10%. Right, that means that average inflation of the cost of goods and services has gone up 10%. That doesn't mean that every single product that is in existence has gone up by a consistent 10%. It's on average. Some things are far higher, some things are far lower. When it comes to commodities, when it comes to the cost of the prices of things that are involved in the Tottenham Hotspur supply chain, hops, wheat, anything to do with that's energy based, any of that stuff, it's significantly higher. And the predicted prices of energy, the predicted prices may come down, But inflation next year is predicted to be 3%. It doesn't mean that prices are going to drop by 7-8%. It means that they're just going to rise more slowly. Tottenham Hotspur have to factor that into their budgets. Otherwise, you just don't end up making ends meet. Right? And that is something that you have to factor in. I know it's an uncomfortable truth. Everybody wants to be paid more than what inflation goes up by. Doesn't always work out. In the private sector, very, very few people are getting 12, 15% pay rises. So the public sector are demanding it. The private sector have to suck it up. Tottenham, I've got an 80,000 seater waiting list. The prices will go up. You could make the argument that Daniel Levy is trying to gentrify the audience of football. And I'm not even going to deny it, right? Because I spent time in the Nottingham Forest game in the premium section. And there was a 100% an obvious gentrification of the average the average ticket holder in that world. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm just saying it is the thing that's going to happen. Whether you like it or hate it, resent it or understand it, it's natural. And it will happen everywhere else as well. Anywhere that can do it will do it because of the way that the world works. There's variables outside of Tottenham Hotspur that put their pressure on. You might hate the answer, but it doesn't change the reality of the situation. The prices will go up and people will hate it, but
it just needs to step
aside.
It just needs to step aside, in my opinion, with the football side of it. Concentrate on the business side, bring someone in who can take over and
but wasn't that what Paratici was supposed to do, guys? Like when people say that
was his appointment, Sean. That was his appointment, wasn't it? You know, he knew.
I know, yeah.
He must have knew what the problems were before he brought him into the club. You know, there was that cloud over Paratici before he even was appointed. You know,
I just want to touch on the model about bringing ex-players and getting them involved. I think when you look at some of the top clubs around the top of the leagues in Europe, Real Madrid always have people involved from the club. Barcelona also. Liverpool United have predominantly done it for years. Bayern Munich as well. I don't see why Tottenham shouldn't look to maybe get into that model or look at people and say, look, you know, what are you interested in? Okay, how can you help the club? Because ultimately what that does is that brings around the connection to the fans. And the reason why I think a part of the connection to the fans is because you don't have anyone that has a connection to the club, that understands the fans, that understands the way they like the football to be played, understands the type of the players that the fans react to advise anybody up on the board. You know, and I think that's where a lot of the disconnection comes from, because a lot of fans will look at what's on the pitch now and go say, I can't really connect to that. They look at the boardroom and say, I don't really feel a connection to that. And I think that's where a lot of the disconnection comes from. And I think that bridge could be dropped. That gap could be closed by bringing in the people that understand Tottenham. Like you got Jan Vertonghen now, who's going off to do, understand the business side of football and all that sort of stuff. Why not look to get him on board, put him in someone and learn underneath him for the future and stuff like that. I think we are missing a trick, because what it does do, it always ensures that you have that connection with the fans. And when you look at a lot of the top teams around Europe, is that part of the reason why they're at the top? Because they've never lost their identity. They've always kept that connection with the fans, which has also kept the fans coming back, which creates a lot of revenue, this, that, and the other. And I think we are missing a huge opportunity here to be able to do that at this football club.
Dave, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying around the general philosophy and the principle. And I 100% advocate for having a different plan that's clearly identified, that's less opaque. However, can you just bring up a friend of the show, a guy that I love, Paddy Hartnett, right? He makes the argument that is representative in other areas of the fan base. Which comment? 850, right? He says you eat at a restaurant and pay top dollar, but are served shite. How do you react? I love Paddy. This is not a challenge towards him, but what I would say is, mate, is you're not eating shite. You're not served shite. You're eating, in that analogy, you're not at any restaurant. You're at the best restaurant in the world, and you are served food that represents top 4 restaurants in the world, in the hardest industry in the world to achieve it. And if you're complaining about the style of the food, how it is brought out, then that is maybe down to the manager's choices, right? The way that food is represented. I think that like this idea that, you know, that Tottenham that ask for top dollar and that don't deliver top service, I don't necessarily think that makes sense. It doesn't add up to me. We're 4th in the league. We should have been 3rd had it not been for. And by the way, like that Southampton, that VAR decision, I didn't hear a single. I mean, I didn't do very many streams on that weekend because of what was going on. We were all distracted by Conte's comments. It was the worst VAR decision that has ever been not overturned, preceded by the worst refereeing decision in the history of the season.
There is a hilarious reality where if we do win that 3-2, Sean, just quickly, there's a hilarious reality. Conte's still he can't have that speech if he wins 3-2.
Conte's still in charge. Conte's still in charge, and we come out of the because we haven't kicked the ball since then. There's not been a ball.
We can't rely on VAR decisions, though, can we? Do you know what I mean?
No, you should be
there is an alternative reality here.
An alternative reality where Conte doesn't say those things. We win that game. We come out of the international break in third place, right? Conte's still in charge. 55% of the fan base are still saying Conte out, right? No. And then at the same time, had FIFA been smart and not made the most ridiculous decision I've ever heard, which is to expedite the timeline for an exaggeration and extension of Paratici's ban, which, for what it's worth, if the appeal, which is only 19 days away, if that is overturned, FIFA are massively in the mud, right? Daniel Levy can't sack a person for the allegation of something. He can't sack a person
for
a crime that has not followed due process. So I'm not defending him, but I will defend. I don't know what other angle he could have taken there. But if FIFA had waited until the 19th, then the Paratici thing hadn't happened. If the VAR decision hadn't happened, we'd be 3rd in the league. This weekend would have just happened. We could go cement our position in 3rd. The entire outlook around Tottenham Hotspur is entirely different. It's entirely different. It's 180 to where everyone thinks right now. And I still take it back to Paddy's point. He says that we're getting served, trollop in the most expensive restaurant in the world, but you're eating it from the best stadium in the world, the best restaurant in the world, and actually, whether you like the football or you like the performance, you're not getting too bad of a service.
Michelin star runner-up for 20 years. Never could push it to the full edge to get the full star.
I do love you, Paddy. I just disagree with your point.
Love it. Ellie says, I'm your fangirl, Dave. Oh my God, no one comes close to my admiration, not even Sean's fanboy, Drew. Really appreciate that, Ellie. I'm glad I've got one. I was getting a bit jealous there.
You got many, Dave. You got many.
I was going to go off and cry and go, what am I doing wrong? I don't have anyone fangirl love me, so I appreciate it, Ellie. But I absolutely love that. And you know
balanced it out now.
I'm also your biggest fan. Really appreciate it, Ellie. You've cheered me right up. Now I can go and have my chips with a smile on my face. Really appreciate it. But guys, I think that's been a really good discussion today. I've really enjoyed that little show. Hopefully, Sean, you got what you wanted at the start, where you come on angry, maybe you leave with a little bit of a smile on your face. That would be nice.
I was worried. I mean, maybe I've already embarrassed myself, but I was worried I was going to leave here angry and embarrassing.
Nah.
To be fair, you did well, Sean. You bit your tongue, man. You did well there, mate.
Love it. Well, look, guys, I think we'll go around the houses. We'll let everyone have their final say, plug whatever it is they need to plug, and we'll let you all off here to go and enjoy the rest of your Saturday evenings. We'll start with you, Shawnee. What can people look forward to over on the Spurs Talk Show this week?
Well, just Tottenham walks, and I'm definitely going to do a live stream this week at some point. I am going to be starting a weekly show at some point, either this week coming or next week. It will be cemented in the diary. I would like it to be on a Tuesday, but I've got to figure out the timing. And I'm going to be calling it something either the Devil's Advocate or something similar, where I want everybody to come in.
The bear.
Yeah, I want to poke the bear. I want it to be a weekly event where everybody that's on the show is going to have to present both sides of the argument. I want everyone, no matter what the opinion is, I want them to have to represent both sides of the opinion. They'll probably feel strongly about one side, but they have to acknowledge and represent the other. I think it'll be fun. And you'll find that on
That is
Spurs Talk
awesome.
Show.
I
So
like
come over and check us out.
I like that.
And on
I
the
like that
thumbnail, you're
premise.
just going to see Havana flip-flops. That's the thumbnail.
You asked them beforehand as well, like, which one do you want to talk about? They're like, oh, I definitely want to talk about like how bad Perisic is, and it's like, great, you're going to talk about Perisic in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want people to have to force themselves to acknowledge that there's two sides to every story,
I'll do the Eric
and
Dyer
force
one.
people into representing the other side occasionally. See how they feel about it.
I'll do the Dyer one.
All right, mate.
Love it. Everybody, please do get over and check out Shawnee's channel, the Spurs Talk Show. He's absolutely smashing it. Great content over there. So get over there and check it out. You will not regret it. Phil, anything you want to say or anything, maybe you didn't get to say coming in here that you wanted to say before we end off? And have you anything to plug even?
Nah, nothing to plug, mate.
You didn't record the golf trip, no?
Nah. To be fair, yeah, the golf was hard work going around 18 holes, walking around. Bloody hell, man. I'm going to have to get a buggy next time. But yeah, it's been a pleasure coming on your show, as always, Dave and Jack. And, looking forward to the game Monday. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win for Tottenham Hotspur. It might not be, people might not think that it's going to be that kind of scoreline, but I'm going to be positive, and I always am with Spurs.
Love it. Do you know what? I admire it, and I'll probably be leaning on you to rub it off on me because my positivity is starting to drain by the day, my man. Big up, man. Really appreciate your time this evening, as well as you, Shawnee, my man. Really appreciate it, guys. Jack, anything you want to say, my man?
Yeah, everybody, come Monday, look for a real, I would say, day of football purists. It's going to be a game for the football purists between Sean Dyche and a former manager of Conte, Stellini. Stellini ball versus Sean Dyche ball. It's going to be a game for the football purists, indeed. But looking forward to Monday. Looking forward to just getting back into this. Yeah. Looking forward to the Spurs in general. Kind of, like I said, Dave, even if it is the misery, as much as we kind of have been happy to probably avoid it for a little bit, I do kind of like getting sucked back into it, I must admit. But
I can't wait to be all back on the stream with you boys Monday night. It's going to be great.
And we'll be fighting against a 4-5-1 of Sean Dyche. So we'll try our best, Sean. We'll be trying.
I think Tottenham are going to come out, and I know you're talking about it tomorrow or Monday, but I think Tottenham is one way. Either Tottenham succumb to it and we lose like 2-0 or something, and it's embarrassing, or we go out and smash them 4-0.
Stellini ball, man. Stellini.
Because you know what the difference is this time round? Stellini ball last time. So people were saying that Stellini had he took the shackles off the players when Conte wasn't around. Stellini ball removed the shackles of the players. You know what the difference is this time round? There's no shackles on the Stellini. He hasn't got a deal. He hasn't got to phone up Conte and say, who do you want to play? What do you want to do? Maybe, just maybe, this is the emergence of Stellini and the next big thing. Like Martin Jol back in the day. He hasn't got to speak to his boss and say, should we do 3 at the back or 5? He can come out and play a new formation. 2-5. 2-3 or something mad like that. I'm excited to see it. We're going to figure it out on Monday.
He's unbeaten as well, isn't he? He's unbeaten at the minute, so let's keep that run going, man.
In the Premier League, yeah, I think so. Yeah. Oh no, I think maybe still. He's still unbeaten.
No, he was in charge when we lost to Wolves. He was in charge when we lost to Wolves.
Was he?
Yeah.
He was in charge when we lost to Wolves 1-0. I think he was in charge when we lost to Sheffield United as well.
That's nice. I forgot we lost to Wolves for a second there until now.
Yeah, he made a quote after the Wolves game where he said, we need Conte back here. So let's see whether Stellini swims or sinks without Antonio Conte. No, that's true. I went up and looked it up. But look, regardless of what's going on at Tottenham, we're all going to let's just admit it, we're all going to sit there and tune in Monday night. We all know we are. Let's enjoy it up until the shit.
Hit the like button on the way out, please, too.
Everyone, let's smash that like button. Let's smash that subscribe button. And we'll see you all back here Monday for the big game. Stay tuned for tomorrow. There'll be more content coming your way.
Not even on 100 likes, everybody. Get it to 200, please. We were over 200 the whole show. Get it over 100, please, everybody. Get it over 100, please, and everybody. Then we'll let you go. And we'll let
Yeah,
you go.
we'll let you go. Smash that.
We're not going anywhere. We're going to keep on. I ain't fucking leaving. I ain't fucking leaving.
Oh, nowhere. Oh, actually, we actually are, because I am actually fucking starving.
Everybody, see ya. Have a good one. Hit the like button on the way out. That's all we ask of you.
Come on, you Spurs.
See you
Come
Monday.
on, you Spurs. In the vacant manager position, I trust.
In the empty shoe.
Everywhere we go.